Hi, welcome to this day-to-day operations tutorial for accounting for tradies. In this tutorial, we're going to show you the invoicing functions. But first, we need to add products, customers, and then we can issue an invoice. So go to Invoices, Customers and Products, go to Product, Services and Details, and you'll notice that we presently have none, so we're going to add a new product or service. And we'll add three items, the first one being labour. This is a unit price and the unit is in hours, and we'll say $75 an hour, and GST applies, and we'll assume in this instance that GST does or is included in the $75, so we add that there. Then we're going to add an item. Let's call it a hot water system. Again, this will be a unit, but we do not need to put in a description of the unit, but we just put in the price. So we'll say $750, and we'll assume again that GST applies here. And in this case, let's just say that that $750 was a ex-GST price, and we'll see how that comes out in the invoice shortly. So we'll add that. Now there might be circumstances where there's an agreed price or some form of service. So we could say plumbing services, and we'll call this a set price. In other words, it's a price that you can set at the time of making the invoice. So we don't need to worry about units, we don't need to worry about the unit price. We are saying yes, there is some GST, and we'll say that GST is not included as well. So we'll click on add, and then we'll go back, and we can see we've got our three items in there, and one includes GST. The others will have GST added as you enter it into the invoice. So let's go to our customer details, and we'll add a customer. So we'll call this John Smith, and you can put a customer contact and address details. And you can fill out all of those other details if you wish. So there we have our customer in our list. So now let's add an invoice. So we go to add invoice, and we need to complete the parent part first. Notice that the invoice number has been auto-incremented. If you noted when we did our getting started tutorial, we put in a starting invoice number, and that's now been incremented. If you want to use a preface to the invoice, some form of code, then you can put that in here. It will appear just before the invoice number on the actual invoice. So let's select our customer. We've got the date, and we'll put some notes, and we'll say that it was to install and supply hot water system. We might just spell it correct as well, and we'll save that. And now we have to add the invoice items, so we'll click add new. So we'll say firstly there was some labour in hours, and we'll say there was 2 hours to do it, and it's calculated the $75 an hour. GST was included in that price, so that is the amount of GST that's been included in that line. So we click on save, and then we'll go and look at the hot water system. Now we say that there was just one hot water system, And you notice that it was $750 in our product list, but it has added the $75 GST and added it to the total. And likewise, if you wanted to add the set item, plumbing services, then you can tab all the way to the total area. And if I just put in $100, remember in their product list it was X GST, so it should change that to 110. There we are, 110. So we'll save that item there. Then we save the total invoice, which has come up to $1,085. If we click on back, you can see we now have our invoice in our grid. If you wish to print the invoice, you can click on there and you can see that we have our invoice and the labour, the hot water system and the plumbing services are all noted there, and totals to that $1,085. So that concludes this tutorial.